All right, so we got that, and I went ahead, I sewed you didn't see that, I sewed these two edges down and then cut them off so they were the same at the bottom. But nonetheless, now what we want to do is we want to make a handle that's going to go in the boxing for the top of it. And the boxing piece that is going to be the back side of it, we're going to make that, we're going to cut the rough piece out 6 inches so that we could fold that flap over for the zipper. But right now, what I want is I just want like a 6-inch chunk of it up here that I can sew the handle into. So we need to make a, let's go 7 inches. We need a 7-inch by 6-inch. A 7-inch by 6-inch piece. And then let's take some, let me get this out of the way so we can see what's going on. Now let's take some webbing, and that's big enough for a handle, and that is 8 inches. So we need to cut 3 pieces of webbing out 8 inches long. All right, so now what I want to do is we're going to fold over a portion of this. Actually, give me a white pencil. Let's go in 1 inch. Inch on both sides. Let's see, that's going to go, no, that's going to go on the inside, the top's going to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew half of this in and then leave part of it flat. Kind of hard to explain it. Actually, I'm going to come up more than that. I'm going to go 2 inches. Let me go to the machine to see if I can show you. You'll see when it's done, it's a lot easier to explain. So what I'm doing is I'm folding this in half, and then I'm going to start sewing on this 2-inch mark. So it's basically kind of like binding a portion of this. Do the same thing on this side. Grab this piece. Now what you want to do is we're going to offset it just a little bit. What I'm going to do is let's go this way. I'm going to flatten all 3 pieces out. And I'm going to stitch it right on the side. Take this over here, and I'm going to pull it in, flatten all 3 pieces out. And then you got kind of a nice cool handle right there. All right. All right, so those kind of got a little curvy right there. Definitely want to hot knife this stuff because you don't want that. The webbing will fray really bad if it's not hot knifed. So I'm just going to cut these two sides off. Pretty cool little handle. Next, what we want to do is, so that handle is going to go there. This is going to get flapped over with the zipper on it here. But what we want to do is figure out, that came up to about there. I'm going to walk this down to about there. That's about 19 inches. Let's go, yeah, let's call it 19 inches. So we need two, actually maybe better make it a little bit bigger. 19 inches. All right, so we need two 6-inch pieces. By 19 inches. I don't know why I'm using a ruler when I have this thing. I always kind of forget that I have this thing. All right, so we may wind up trimming this a little bit shorter because I do like the 6-inch, but what we want to do is make this get a let's put a 2-inch. Maybe I want a bigger flap. Do I want a bigger flap to overlap? I'm thinking about how we're going to overlap the zipper. The zipper is going to start right here and zip all the way around and stop right there to open the pack up. The question is, do I want more than 1 inch? I do, I think. I'm going to take this, maybe make it a little narrower, but I'm going to take this to 3 inches. Which means I need to take this, mark that same 3-inch line up here. Yeah, I like that better. I like that better. So now what I need to do is I need to take the handle and the pad . Oh, hang on, that's not right. It goes pad, handle, and then the other piece on the other side. It's going to come around. So let me cut another piece out 19 inches by 6 inches. All right, so here's what we need to make sure we got the bottom there. Mark the 3-inch, 3-inch, And we need another 3-inch line. Okay, so now let's go to the machine and we'll sew these 3 pieces together. And let me figure out where the, yep, okay. All right, so now we have our little bow tie handle, and it's obviously going this way because this is going to get flapped over for a zipper that's going to go on there. But first thing we need to do is kind of walk this dude out. That's actually 6 1/4, so about 3 1/8 is center. And this is just roughly, so here's what's going to happen. Here's what's tough to do. We're going to sew this coming around both sides, and then this is going to be stitched onto the bottom. But what we need to do is we need to get it so that we get it so that this piece isn't, you know, way offline there. So let me kind of just walk this out. And then where this is hitting right down here, I like that. So that's going to mean, damn, we're going to be just close on material. I should have made these pieces 20 inches to have some extra. Let me see. So if I raise that up there and that down there, ooh, that's going to be tight. That's going to be really tight. I'm going to go with it. We may have to wind up lengthening something to make it reach, but it should be pretty close. So I'm going to go with it. So what we're going to do is, oh, you know what? We need, let's skip that for a second. What we need to do is put our zipper in. So we need another piece that is this overall length right here. So in about 44 inches. So I need a piece that is going to be 1.5 inches. Let's cut a strip 1.5 inches, 44 inches long. All right, so let's make our strip 1.5 inches. You know, I probably should have basted that before. Here's a trick I always use with put a clamp. Am I out of frame? Use a clamp. Clamp this stuff to the edge of the table. Actually, it's going to go this way, not that way. I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. And we will stick this side of that zipper, the same thing, put the teeth down so that they're exposed. There we go. Somebody's always wanting something. So now we're going to do the same thing as we did on those pockets. Stick the zipper down. All right, so now what we're going to do, let me tighten up this a little bit so you can see this better if I can. Now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we want to put 2 slides in this guy. So put it together, pinch it on, zip it shut. And again, now I'm going to trim that off. So this is, I ran out of memory card as I was just finishing up putting this zipper on. We haven't done anything else than that. All I did was I got 2 slides put in here, but you need to make sure that you get the teeth lined up right so that you don't have a big gap in the zipper when this thing's sewn on there. So that's really the moral of that story with the sliders. But now what we're ready to get so this piece to the bottom of this, so that we can start stitching it on around there. So I'm not going to show this because I'm just going to do it real quick. I'm going to go and just sew this and top stitch it. Then we'll come back and I'll show you how we'll line it up. All right, so if this just kind of went out of whack a little bit on the video, it's because I'm regrouping. I had to regroup. What we need to do is, now that we've got these pieces made, we need to come down here and we need to stitch this onto the bottom, but leave ourselves a couple extra inches on both sides. And then we need to start at the center, up here in the center at the top, and we need to sew these on both ways so that we make sure that this is centered and this is centered on the pack. Let me go to the machine and I'll show you how. All right, so we have a center line and we have a center mark on there. I just want to wrap this around right into the corner, but leave myself a couple extra inches right there. And then sew this down, making certain that I'm sewing on the inside of this stitch line so that from the outside you don't see. All right, and then I'll back tack that. All right, so this is going to get bound to top stitch, but see how it's nice and clean on the outside right there? All right, now we're going to do the same thing with the top piece, but this time what we're going to do is we're going to find the center of our handle piece. Put that on there right in the center. And we're going to stitch one way. Then we're going to leave ourselves a couple of inches down here at the bottom so these can get put together. But now we need to flip it over and stitch it the other way around. Okay. Now, remember I put those 2 marks right there and there? If you move this around, that's probably not coming into focus. Let me see if I can zero in on that a little bit. So, about a 1/2 inch in, this edge goes to the 1/2 inch mark there, and it's got about a 1/2 inch of seam allowance. So now if I take this piece right here, I'm going to add this piece went outside a 1/2 inch. Now I need to come in about a 1/2 inch over here, take this piece around, and then mark a 1/2 inch right there. So that's that's going to be our stitch line. Our stitch line is there, and the stitch line is there. So let's cut this extra about 1/2 inch off of there. Now I can come back, let me widen that out. Now I can come back, with these not together, I can put these together, sew my 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, and then now I can come back, and you can see how now I can sew this. I can sew that closed, and it'll be the right shape when we're done. But before I do that, I'm gonna sew these two guys together. Then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna take. Actually, you know what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bind this side and bind this side before I sew it on there, so that we don't have any of that frayed edging on there. So let me do that and I'll come right back. Now that we've got it put together and it's all right, it's even, it's good, we're going to come back here, and all of that frayed edge and all that stuff on the bottom is going to bind right over the top of it. All right, so we're getting close. Take our back. I said when I was over there at the machine, I said we're gonna go put our top on, but no, we're gonna put our back on. What we're gonna do here is we have this stitch line on the bottom. I mean, admittedly, it's not the easiest thing to do, especially when you've not done this. When you're doing it shooting from the hip, basically, not pulling measurements and not having patterns, so these things are walked out exactly perfect. There may be some variation in the sizing. So if there is any type of deviation, for example, if this needs to have a little bit of a pucker put in it, or this needs a little bit of a pucker put in it, we'd rather have that mistake down here at the bottom. Hopefully it won't. But if it does, we'd rather have it down here at the bottom rather than up here at the top. So I've already got our centers marked. I'm going to take this to the machine. I'm going to stick those straps on the inside there, and I'm going to start sewing right here at the bottom, and I'm going to sew all the way around it, and then hopefully it lines up perfect. If not, we'll make a little bit of an adjustment to one piece or the other, and basically that's going to be about it. All right, so I can see that now what's probably happened, it's got a little bit tight. So what I can do though is right here I said that, I just said over there, everything changes, right? I said over there that we'd make the adjustment down here at the bottom, but what makes it look a little easier is we can make an adjustment right here with that fold. So we can tighten that up just a bit more to make it, and you're never gonna see that from the outside. You'll never see it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fold this out and come this way. And admittedly, with all this foam and stuff in here, it makes it a little difficult. Okay, right there. And that should be it. Yep. Ta-da. Okay, so now the next thing is to address is this is going to be very difficult to bind. But I think we can do it. Yeah, there's some really thick spots in here. Let me try to trim some of that out. Now maybe we can do that. All right, let's go ahead. I've got a little bit of a fray going on here. I guess if you've watched this far, you're still going to watch the end of it, right? Sometimes I worry about taking too much time for people's attention span. Especially when I can't thread a needle. All right, let's see what's going to happen with this. This stuff is pretty doggone thick. Got it. All right, sweet. There you go. What's wrong with that? So, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a backpack with a covered flap zipper. Pouches, little padded bottom, padded back. First time I've ever made this, as you could probably tell from this video. If I had to do this over with, there's definitely some changes I'd make, but hindsight, there's a backpack, right? Little handle. I like it. That's it. Thanks.